Good morning. It's the 20th of September 2019. Today I am going to work with and express to you how I have experienced the chart of Bernie Sanders. Before I start, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background. When I was age 50, I began the study of astrology. Up until that moment, I had not opened one astrology book, and for the next 5 or 6 years I studied all day every day, and it became such an illumination within my being that I gained so much self-understanding. It wasn't like I was going out to read everybody else's chart. It gave me a lot of deep insights into why I had gone through what I'd gone through and what was the reason for it, and when was it going to happen. And so I looked at astrology not so much predictive as insightful into the soul's evolution. That was always the kind of astrology that really appealed to me, giving a deeper insight into how to reach the essence of my being, how to become a better person, and also to look head on at my major issues, my major inner conflicts, which had expressed through my outer world. So, say, for example, if I'd been in a very tempestuous marriage, looking at my chart and seeing that Mars in Scorpio square Pluto in Leo, realizing that the ego battle was not just taking place outside of me, but was actually within me, to learn the capability to resist abusing power. So I walked into a marriage where power was terribly abused, but that was my lesson, and that was something I chose, and that is right there sitting in my chart. So when I'm taking people like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or anybody else, Donald Trump, you name it, if I pick up on a topic and I'm looking at their chart, I want to sit with that chart, and that chart is a series of geometrical configurations. So you see planets opposite each other, you see planets working in beautiful harmony with each other, you see planets squaring each other, you see planets sitting on top of each other. And I wanted to feel in my soul, what the heck was that all about? And let the chart, through its geometrical messages, give me, excuse me, doggy at the door. Okay, you can come in, but you gotta go lie down, okay? Let the chart speak to me like a living, vibrating form. Just like when we learn tarot, we look at the cards, but within the cards, especially with the accurate earlier decks of tarot that were created around symbology, the early mystics understood that symbology opened us to deeper realms. The ancient Tibetans knew this, the ancient Orientals knew this, the first Italian deck in the 14th century. If you look at the deck, and if you actually take each of those cards and you meditate on those cards, you will have profound intuitive openings. That's the purpose of them. So it's the same with astrology. When you sit and look at astrology, read about it, study it, it's not so you can spout, this planet is in this planet does this to this. It's for you to sit and let yourself be opened to the inner essence of that specific individual soul growth, soul purpose, and soul challenges. Because that is how you can best help somebody else to read their chart, if you are an astrologer, is by going to the spiritual essence of the chart. So with Bernie Sanders, I spent most of yesterday looking at his chart and really feeling what is the soul essence of this person. What am I seeing, and that needs to be conveyed from a place of inner truth, not from just, well, he's got 3 planets in Virgo and plus the North Node in Virgo, but and it's sitting in the 10th house. I could go into all of that, and I will, but what is his essence, and what is it about him that this man, in his late 70s, is just turned 78? What is it about him that is still excites people, and I realized looking at the chart, it just jumped out at me. He has the chart of someone that I am going to describe as untainted innocence. So much as there's years of experience and knowledge and capability to have a desire to serve, and to transform and to grow, the soul essence of this man is innocence. And with innocence, I mean a sense of self-purification that has not been tainted by the worlds he's walked in. Instead, he's taken the worlds he's walked in and moved forward with where he sees injustice and wants to transform things. And he has remained authentic. And when people live from an authentic place, when they speak their truth from their gut and their heart, we just know it. We can feel when it's happening, and we can feel when people have got that political veneer, and we're just not going to go there with them, much as they want to pull us in with all their facts and figures or bullying. But with Bernie, even when he's got a scowl on his face and an angriness to his sense of wanting to change the system, to create the revolution, he has a purity about how he goes about it and why he's doing it. He's pushed from a pure place of intention that is untainted. I have to keep using that word today. So I looked at his chart, and here he is. Excuse me, I had something in my eye. With that Sun in Virgo conjunct the North Node in Virgo, conjunct Neptune in Virgo, conjunct Mercury in Libra, close to Neptune, not too far off. So basically, what that is telling me is that he came here with it all sitting up in his 10th house of how the world sees you. What did you come here to do? What is your profession? He's got all these planets crammed together up in that house. Now, if you've heard my other videos, you'll know that the biggest thing that I emphasize is let's look where that North Node is, because that is where the soul, especially as we get older, is tugging us toward our mission. And his North Node is in the 10th house in Virgo. So he came here to bring clarity, to bring purification, to lay out the facts of what's happening in our world, and because it's in the 10th house, to try to create a purification of the system being the 10th house. So here he is with, you look at the North Node, and in complete opposition, you're going to find what they call the South Node. So the North Node is our Dharma. The North Node is our, this is what you're supposed to do here. This is your intention before you came in, is your North Node. your South Node is your karma. It is also the soul gifts that you have gathered through many lifetimes. And it is in his fourth house of deep subconscious internal diving and understanding of self. It's also somebody that has lived a very spiritual, many, many lives of spirituality. It is somebody that has known suffering and came in the fourth house of family, knowing suffering and being surrounded by people that had suffered. And of course, we know that with Bernie, there was an imprint of the Holocaust on his parents, and he had a great empathy with people. It was aroused at a very young age of his destiny to help people who are in situations of hopelessness or at the mercy of the system. And his heart had gained pure consciousness. Often I find people with their South Node in Pisces, they have had lifetimes where they've actually moved into states of full awareness. So their ego has been crushed, and they have just allowed the divine source to direct them. Now, with that South Node in Pisces, and I can attest to this one because I have the same North and South Node, there's inclined to be a naivety and a person that will walk into situations with such a hyped up idealism that they don't always see the truth. They are taken in. As smart as they can be taken in by the shenanigans of others. And so he could have entered into his ideologies with a certain innocence that this can happen, I can do this. But the beauty of it is that that innocent enthusiasm, he's maintained it all his life. He's just never given up on these goals, on this intention to purify the world and to make things more fair. So here's another one. Remember we were talking about Elizabeth and how she had this incredible Uranian energy. Well, he's got his sun touching on the North Node with his Uranus in the house of deeper commitment to humanity. And his Uranus actually, we'll see in later parts of the chart, with the United States, is actually creating that Uranian waking up to the world. But the beautiful part of his chart that I love the most is this South Node in Pisces pushing the North Node out there to bring forth this Sun conjunct Neptune. This is the true idealist. This is somebody that when he came here, he could see the higher reason for fighting for causes. It was never for self-interest. With all this Virgo, it was always coming from a sense of the social worker, of bringing the dreams into reality. And with his Venus, his love nature being in Libra, there was a sort of a gracious likability about him, even though he could be called a curmudgeon, or people could say he did this to that with women. Basically, he likes women and treats women well. And I think probably when we think back to all of his speeches and watching him, that his most gracious act of innocence was that day when he was standing on the podium with thousands and thousands of people around him, and that little bird landed on the lectern. And the look on his face was, to me, such a South Node in Pisces, North Node in Virgo, North Node in Virgo being about little creatures, also people that are in states of vulnerability and bringing solutions to those people in states of vulnerability. So he has a really strong feeling of the world, of his destiny, that he came here to fix things. And let's go now to the really intense part of his chart, which is his rising sign. And as we discussed before, in spiritual astrology, we are the rising sign, and his rising sign is 19 degrees Scorpio. Some charts have him as 25 degrees Scorpio. My chart has him at 19 degrees Scorpio. So the ruler of his first house, Scorpio, this makes him super intense. It makes him very direct. It makes him very deep and focused and obsessed with his goals. And the ruler of his first house, Pluto, is sitting up in his ninth house, which is the house of higher mind, higher education, higher expression of law and justice. And his Pluto is where he's come to create the revolution. So he's come to create the revolution. Again, here it is. Let's help all those students, higher mind, education. Let's transform that whole area of existence so that everybody can get an education. That Pluto is conjunct his Chiron. Now, Chiron in our chart is where we've been wounded in another life, where we have been, what happened before, and what do we come here to heal. And with Pluto on top of that, it's very likely that he had other lives where he was literally killed for what he believed in, or badly treated or betrayed by others for what he believed in. So in this life, he came in to heal that wound and to not have fear about what could be done to him for fighting for the right. But because he is such a pure soul, he took up the banner of justice and freedom and what he felt were his ideologies at a very, very young age. And one of the rarest things about him is he never deviated from that pathway. He never gave up his truth. That's so unusual in the political world, that somebody could stay true to what they started out. Whether you believe in him or not, whether you like him or not, and his causes, you have to admire the integrity and authenticity and sort of beautiful innocence that still exists in his face. And it's why we're drawn to him, why we love him. I remember watching him when he gave up his rise to the throne to Hillary. And even though there had been a lot going on behind the scenes, and he'd had that same Pluto Chiron betrayal aspect, he still had that gentlemanly capability to rise to the occasion and think of the greater good beyond his own ego. So he really is, in so many ways, an egoless individual. And that in politics is such a rarity. I think that's why the young people love him so much. The final part of his chart that I'd like to briefly touch on is his moon conjunct Mars in Aries. This is the fighter part of him. This is the Mars is the ruler of Aries. So it's one of the rulers. So it's also one of the rulers of his ascendant. And the moon in Aries is, it's a feisty moon. It's gives him that push forward, and it is opposing his Venus. So there are times when he has an inner conflict of how to reach his own causes, how to reach his own goals. But that moon conjunct Mars in Aries in the fifth house gives a great generosity of spirit to never give up. And it also gives him a lot of vitality, which is why at times he probably appears younger than his closest rival, Joe Biden, who is a year younger than him, and yet at times doesn't seem to have that same wild-eyed, passionate vitality that Bernie has and will continue to have for many years to come. I'd like to end there. We'll look at another time at Joe Biden, and then we're also going to look at Bernie and Joe's crossovers with the chart of the United States, because it's not useful to just look at the chart and not see how it is in synergy or conflict with the chart of the United States, and which of these two men has a greater boost from the energetic force of the United States. So that will be in our next video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the video or to like it. And if you are interested in reading about your own chart and your own capabilities and drives and where your essence is wishing to manifest, please contact me at angelicmercy44@gmail.com. Thank you, and sending you love and divine mercy, and hoping that these are the greatest qualities that you are developing within your soul, along with your beautiful divine wisdom. Thank you.